Hey there, this is your pal Pally, and welcome back to Get Her Raid. Warlords of Draenor beta testing continues on with more heroic mode bosses. Time to bring those priests for more than just their damage and shields. Mind control is a thing again in this next fight, the Blast Furnace. Get ready to deal with a big nasty furnace, as well as the dad from Christmas Story does, cursing included. As always, mechanics can change from the time a fight is beta tested to when it is actually released live. There's also some mythic footage mixed in here to show a variety of angles. So first off, there are a bunch of different ads in this fight, and as I mentioned in the intro, a priest can mind control you to victory. The overall story of this fight is you have a big elemental boss called the Heart of the Mountain trapped within this furnace. A bunch of guys try to prevent you from freeing this boss. You have to use some of their abilities against the furnace itself, and then the heart becomes exposed. Then some Primal Elementalist ads come out and try in desperation to contain the blazing boss. Take care of them, and then it's all up to you to take down your fiery foe. So 3 phases basically. I have footage for the first on Heroic and Mythic. My groups were fairly suspect for this testing, but I watched quite a few streams and read a lot of the feedback and forums on this one, and have a decent grasp of all phases. So first up, the goal of Phase 1 is to use bombs dropped by the furnace engineers to blow up the heat regulators on either side of the furnace itself. So let's talk first about the engineers, and then go through the rest of what you deal with in this phase. Engineers can throw a bomb onto a random raid member. This bomb will explode after 15 seconds, doing a decent chunk of their health. But, as noted, will also harm anything else around it, including heat regulators. So if you get a bomb on you, it's time to run very quickly to any nearby regulator. The engineer can also decide to repair a regulator by running to it and casting Repair. This can and should be interrupted. He can also fire some chain lightning out in the form of electrocution. It doesn't hurt too much, about 24k, but can chain to a few other people. It's more of a minor raid damage type thing. Lastly, when the engineer dies, it will drop its sack of bombs off that will explode soon after. But the interesting thing is that you can click on the sack of bombs and run a bomb to the regulators yourself. Hence, it's a nice idea for the engineers to die near a regulator so you can set up a little chain of people dropping bombs off. Apparently, engineers will start the fight with 5 bombs overall, so whatever they don't drop on raid members during their brief life, they will have left in the bags. Big note here. The bombs you get out of the sack might only have 1 or 2 seconds left before they explode, so be careful here. So, while dealing with the engineers, you'll have other company in Phase 1. Foreman Feldspar is the biggest health ad in this fight. He will need to be bounced between the tanks every so often, as he puts a debuff called Melt Armor on them. He'll also throw out an interruptible nuke called Pyroclasm, and rupture the ground, causing some fire AoE damage to happen on the ground near people. Just don't stand on the rupture and interrupt Pyroclasm. The last bit to note about Foreman is that he radiates fire damage just by being near him, so he's ideally not a melee target. Next up, we have the Bellows Operators. They are really very simple. They will stand there and stoke the furnace, making its AoE hurt even more when it goes off. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that part. The more you're in Phase 1, the more the furnace will explode itself, doing about 80k fire damage to start off, but increasing as the Bellow Operators do their work. You can kill these guys, but they will come back eventually and keep doing their thing. Lastly, in this first phase, we have an ad called a Security Guard. They really only have 2 abilities, and one that is important only in Phase 2. The first ability is called Defense, and it's basically the ad shielding all other ads in a zone. You can't interrupt it, and just have to move all of the other ads out of the zone. The other ability is called Slay Elemental. This is an ability that only harms slag elementals, and you only get those in Phase 2, so let's leave that for now. So again, the point of Phase 1 is to blow up bombs on regulators. You can do this by waiting for the engineers to drop their bombs on the raid members, or you can kill them and quickly run a train of bombs to the regulators from the drop sack of bombs. Or a third option is to have a priest mind control these guys and force them to throw the bombs on raid members over and over. This, of course, is the most fun method, but likely isn't any faster or better than the other methods. There are only 5 bombs per engineer, and they spawn on a timer. Plus, you still need raid members to put the bombs in the right place, and be careful not to explode all over each other while doing so. From what I've read, it looks like it takes about 10 bombs to kill a regulator, so that should be 2 engineer waves worth of bombs if you do things perfectly. Moving into Phase 2, the Heart of the Mountain boss actually comes out of the furnace, but is immediately waylaid by the Primal Elementalists. These guys will keep the boss at bay and start out completely immune to damage. You must defeat them in order to progress. Again, the blasts are still happening from the boss, so you don't have too much time to dally around here. Besides being immune, the Primal Elementalists will also throw out reactive earth shields, which will heal adds for 30% of their health after 8 seconds, if not dispelled. So as I mentioned, the Elementalists are immune, and the only way to remove their shield is to use Slag Elementals. When you kill a Slag Elemental, not only will it explode for some small area damage, it will be dormant and remove the damage shield of nearby Primal Elementalists. Slag Elementals are tricky in that they have no aggro table and will fixate on a random target and chase them down. Not only that, but it looks like the Slags also have a shield that prevents damage. Remember that ability from the security guards? Yep, here's where you need to use it, on the Slag. I'm not sure what happens if you can't do so. But basically, the thread here goes, use security guards to make the Slags vulnerable, kill Slags near Elementalists, and then pew-pew the Elementalists. Slags will recharge 20 energy for every blast from the furnace that goes off, so you have about 5 blasts before the Slag is back alive and full health. There is another ad in Phase 2 that is mainly a nuisance, but will become more relevant on Mythic from what I see. You can also mind control him to make it easier. This is the Firecaller. He will cast an interruptible heal called Cauterize, and a nuke called Lava Burst. The piece to watch out for is Volatile Fire. This puts a seed on a random target that will explode for a lot of fire damage in an 8-yard radius. If you get this, get the heck out of the raid away from people. And now with the Primal Elementalists defeated, you finally get your boss. A burn phase in more ways than one. You mainly need to worry about the tanks swapping off for stacks of heat and tempered, and then all staying together to drop the big arse Melt Fire Puddle. This thing is quite large, and will quickly consume the room if you are all spread out. Kind of need to kite the boss around the room away from this if you are close to meeting the enrage timer in terms of DPS. So yeah, this fight seems to favor bringing larger groups to have a lot of cleave and using some priests to make things easier. If you're looking ahead to Mythic, a precise raid comp is likely coming, so be prepared. That's it for this guide on the Blast Furnace Heroic in Blackrock Foundry. Tanks, Phase 1 you take care of the guards and the foreman. Phase 2 you get guard duty again, as well as interrupts on the Firecallers. Phase 3 swaps for stacks on the boss itself. Healers, be wary of the blast throughout the entire fight, and watch your bomb kiters in Phase 1. DPS, do your assigned jobs, which might be bomb duty, and priests will have some mind control fun. Thanks for watching, and as always, please comment, like, and or subscribe to the video if you found it helpful, and have a good one!